Alright, welcome back to a new art venture. I guess we could call this beyond the beta. This is like the third run or so. And basically what I do is I'm gonna just create some art like I usually do in my sketchbook and take you along and show you a little bit of the technique and rap to you about some being an artist and just taking an art venture. You know, so getting back to the roots of why any of us draw or paint, you know, besides trying to make it, you know, the vehicle, the submarine, the creature submarine for life. So basically I'm going to use some watercolor today. You can use any palette. I'm going to do what I've come to know as intuitive painting. And my instruments of mass creation today are one of my favorite sketching tools, the Nero Soft. The Nero Soft. It's I think a hybrid of like graphite and charcoal, and that's going to be my main sketching tool. So what I like to do is use this tool to make my creature or my creation. You know, I paint creatures, so I'm going to draw some creatures, and then I'm using intuitive painting, and I've been using the cyan, magenta, yellow palette and use watercolors. So I'm not really going to use any white or black. And I got my Sennelier, and I'm going to use some blue phthalo. So that's a cyan, right? And then I got some manganese Blue Deep Extra, right, from Old Holland. And that's another cyan, a lighter cyan. And I think I got a little turquoise in there from M Graham. And then I'm going to use some Hansa Yellow from M Graham, and some Hansa Yellow Light from Core, and some quinacridone Magenta from Core, and some quinacridone Rose from M Graham. So M Graham's the one with the honey, and Core is made by Golden, and it's super saturated. And manganese is just one of my favorites. I have a lot of extra tubes. A lot of people know I have extra tubes. So I just kind of squeeze that on the palette, and there's some remaining things like some Daniel Smith Electric Blue and some other Daniel Smith Violets. But it's mainly a cyan, magenta, yellow palette because the purples and violets are just wonderful, and the greens and in that realm too. So I'll probably do a video eventually on that CMY palette and how I use it. CMY, yeah, CMY. And then of course a trusty fresh paper towel. And then I've been using these great little containers that have the little grate at the bottom so you can clean off your paint. A lot of times I'm too lazy and in the flow, and I always paint with the dirty paintbrush, which doesn't always keep the vibrancy. So let's do it. So I'm also using my favorite, which I use for the Creaturepedia, and I've used these for quite some time, and they used to be mixed media, but now they need a special one for watercolor. And it's 300 gram, 160 whatever. Really got a lot of texture, so, but I don't mind. I don't need smooth. So let's sketch. I'm just gonna make a creature. And so usually what I do is just, you know, like I'm in my sketchbook and I just start sketching. You know, of course while you're sketching, you know, it's an art venture. So part of our adventure is success at the end, you know. So you go, oh man, I made something pretty cool, you know. So usually what I use the Nero for a lot is, the detail, the form, the structure, to hold it together, you know, to keep it on its, hold its form. So then you could just have a lot of fun with what I call intuitive color. So you're not really, I'm trying to render this and get that perfect blend or whatever. You're just trying to put color to it and make it wonderful, you know. So of course, what's happening here, right, is little Goblo. and in this stage, it's always just like sketching, right? So, it's really magical to draw, and sketch in the sense that you can shape it. You don't have to like do perfect lines and everything. Get in sketchbook mode and make this guy, make him classic. I think this guy is a bearded gobbo. And where it comes to like form and following artistic rules, to me, when you're doing art for yourself, or you consider it practice, because a lot of time you're just most of the time when you're in your sketchbook or experimenting, like you got some new paints or a new Nero pencil, right? You're preparing for the big show, it's wonderful in this world to get to a point where you can do art for other people, and they, and a lot of people who understand that art, brings the flavor and the culture to their lives, and you gotta just give it your best shot, which is like think from, which is like every time you do art like this. I have a lot of experience because I love doing it, right? And frequency brings you to a point where, you're somewhat, good is relevant, right? Like, the most important part, right, is you entertaining yourself, right? So part of an art venture to me is doing something where you're successful, but also doing something where you're, forging the, like we're all big fanatics, right, of other artists, and from music to painting, drawing, to animation, to storytelling, comics, and manga. So a lot of it is like I'll do designs like I'm doing right now. Right, and that's where the fundamentals come in, right? I'll do a parallel line, right, and I'll do perspective on it. So, so it's appeal to the eye, right? And then, I'll follow those rules, but also follow the rules of one of the most, eye appealing rules for not to show other people or even do it professionally, even for yourself, is the whole right there, I'm following a contour line, right? So giving more shape to this helmet he's got, right? And using a lot of graphite to define it, so you can, one way to think about this way of using this Nero, right, is draw how you would paint, instead of just doing lines, just start going into the shading and that's an art principle that is a fun principle, right? Which is make it 3D, homie, right? Make it some 3D. So he's a little goblo guy. So what I love to do with these goblo guys is draw the traditional goblo, get it in there, right? And maybe add some little matsu, so give him a story stone under there. And one tool I'm gonna use, right, which I didn't say, right, is my fancy dancy eraser, because the Nero is charcoal. That's one reason to use the Nero, because I can erase if I consider it an error. But this is sketch form, so you shouldn't really have a lot of errors because you're just free. You're exercising, your freedom. Let's give him a little classic, Western, gobbo. So he's got kind of some gear on. So what I mean kind of by drawing like you're painting is, finish it on the fly, It's a little different than like the timidness, that we're always doing. Like we got to do the outline and the lines to follow, and then he'll come to shape, Let's give him some horns, man. Haven't done some horns in a while. We'll make him, You know, I love my creatures, you know, not really purposely unsymmetrical, but I like the whole thing of not symmetrical because, you know, my creatures represent a lot I deal with in my life, which is, you know, you can use the old cliche, you're not perfect or whatever, but the main thing is, you know, you gotta be comfortable with how original and kind of strange you are, you know, that's kind of make the magic. And it, you know, really directly back to this, you know, intuitive color, you know, thing. Another way to think also about painting, because, you know, that's why charcoal and like this Nero pencil are so unforgivable, right? Because it's that medium. It's also the metaphor of the earth medium, you know, and how earth, it resets itself every day, you know. So this guy is definitely you know, he definitely has the humor I love, you know, the he's kind of like, you know, the eyes that are like, you know, because I grew up kind of, you know, it was kind of silent and distant, so, you know, I always make these guys all like, let's give him a little arm horn. Right, and part of, you know, why I make them so strange like that, because it's part of all of our challenges, right? If we really start to accept the original creature all of us are, you you get in a you have to learn to accept, you know, how funky you are, you know, how unique and different you are. And it's the same way of like this intuitive paintings, like you know, like you can spend hours, like I have trained myself to, you know, if I want to draw a realistic hand, you know, it takes time, and you gotta, you know, a lot of it is always the self-talk, you know, hands are hard, you know. So I've been, you know, really working a lot on almost intuitive drawing on the hand, right? So let's finish this up, you know, because I'm gonna make an art venture, and part of art adventure to me, right, I get lazy and bored, so, you know, it's gotta pop, you know, soon. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, like a lot of you who got the symphony book, you'll find out in my upcoming book, if you haven't got it, you know, it's gonna get finished real soon here. I talk a lot about just, you know, how, you know, having a bad day or a rough day or a confusing day, a day of contemplation, you know, and I just do this like sketching like I'm doing right now, and all of a sudden out pops a little critter, you know. And this guy, should we make him? Oh, I think so. I think he's going to be a hybrid. You know, and I like to create my creatures, you know, because they're you know, they're not paranormal creatures, they're imaginative creatures, so they represent metaphorically, they're pretty much poetic, fun little drawings, right, and paintings of what goes on in my crazy head, and represents and brings back some of the joy, you know. Because it's, you know, it's kind of ironic, at least to me. It's really easy to kind of draw a grotesque little demon or something ugly, you know, that has that kind of darker appeal, you know, and that's kind of stuff that, you know, woo, you know, when I was growing up and spending time in hospitals, you know, I didn't need to draw them; they were already kind of like just there, you know, so. You know, I always draw a friend, right? So this guy's got to be a gaku, right? Because, you know, I love music, right? And it'd just be amazing to have all these instruments, you know, right there in your command, and you could, instead of like get thoughts of worry and doubt, you could you could you know, twang the guitar in your head or whatever, you know. And then, you know, I love just the whole playfulness of the illustration of all these objects, because I think that's the biggest challenge in being a painter or a drawer, illustrator. You know, at one point, you know, after you get over the confidence hill of like, I gotta learn to draw, you know, which, you know, those of you know me, I don't really come from that school. I think, you know, you have to play to draw. You know, you have to like get to a level where you're, you know, in such a playful mood that you just love doing it so much that, you know, well, you don't even notice you get quote unquote good, right? Yeah. But it's fun to draw these like guitar shapes. And, you know, since this is Patreon, thank you all once again for coming over here and giving this a chance and enhancing your creative life journey, even if you don't draw or you do draw. And those of you taking the short verse course, that's amazing. Thank you. And go for it. You know, if you really feel what's going on there, go for it and share it with friends. Let's grow what I call the IPC University. You know, because universe always means to me uni is one and verse is the arrangement of, you know, fantastical, tasty language, which I love. You know, keeps me going. And so I'm let's sharpen it, do a little more details. Because this is going to kind of be, you know, the frame to hold all the beautiful color. And, you know, you can get a little graphite right here. Make sure you start getting some tones in there. Alright. Pretty cool little drawing, right? You know, and the main thing to me on an art adventure is to entertain yourself and be successful. Especially, you know, if you're not a lone hombre like me and you have friends and family around a lot, something that you can show them and go, that's what I was doing over there, you know, because people who love to paint and draw like me and you folks, right, if you're interested in it, or even if you're getting interested in something you did as a kid, that's the most ultimate, you know, like bring back your original self, you know. And oh yeah, since this is the backstage, I don't know if any of you guys wondered why, you know, like the guitar's not straight. Well, because, you know, I mean, my heroes are, you know, the 9 old men, the Disney guys, and, you know, like those of you that know me and visit the stream, Shel Silverstein, you know, and you know, they use the art of cartoon and caricature, and, you know, but the number one art they use is the art of, you know, poetry, you know, the original storytelling. And so everything's appealed to get you to, not necessarily, you know, to me, why I say a poetic story, because a poetic story leaves room for you. You know, for you to open your imagination and find your, you know, juju, and you know, gives time. I mean, that's why I grew up and music was a central thing in all eras of music, because, you know, I grew up in a really small bedroom in suburbia, right, in the Bay Area, and inside living with my bro, and he had record collection, you know. He loved collecting 45s and old school records, and then of course the CDs came in, right, and then the iPod, right. So like, but that whole era was just all of these, you know, and that's where a lot of my influence in my art too, all these album covers, and, you know, they had to kind of have a, oh, we forgot an arm, right? So what should we give him? Let's give him, and I like to invent stuff, right, you know, and I just don't do it just drawing and cool and nonsense. To me, it's all poetry. It's a way of like realizing that, you know, there are no limitations in how you think and how you live creative and how you can use your imagination to, you know, escape any barrier or distraction to, you know, what you came here to do. You know, funkify, rockify, right? So what should we make his hand holding? Oh, let's bring some Matsu in, okay? Oh, and then we of course gotta bring in the homies and give him a inking painter cap, right? Well, so that means we gotta give him let's give him a nib. And part of the journey of what you see here, right, is years and years of doing this. But I'm, part of teaching and sharing what I have to share, what's worked for me with all you folks is, I'll do some sketchbook tours on here too, and maybe bring out some old sketchbooks. But a lot of my sketchbook work now is like, they're like mini graffiti walls. But like, normally a lot of my sketchbook work, I can pull out a lot of those. Is I love filling pages of like, how would IPC draw an ink pen? How would IPC draw, pagoda? How would IPC draw a razor? And that's the funnest stuff. And then the fun stuff is the show, like right now it's the show I'm sharing, right? To me, the show is always the sharing. The big show is when someone's willing to, pay you and help your livelihood and provide you with more tools, right? And go to the next level. And to me, that's what you're always drawing and painting for, is the big show. And streaming, those of you that don't come here through Twitch, I think most of you come through Twitch, please come over and join the community and get involved with us, and that's where you can interact with me and expand even on these art ventures. I've got the opportunity to do a lot of commissions that basically are the big show, and for memorial pieces and even just working on the Creaturepedia. You guys that know about the Creaturepedia, a few people have passed, that made it in my stream, and I got the opportunity to share what I love to do and give them a little bit of color and, quote unquote magic back in their lives, right? We need some drumsticks. So right now, on the artistic side, the craft side, I'm thinking a lot of form, so like when I draw these things, I want the 3D, so you're looking at it and it has that appeal, and I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for me. I'm like, I want to kick back later and stare at this thing. I usually put it right down in front of me when I'm, eating a meal or something, and it's just like, my heroes. But they either didn't go in this genre, and or you can't go on online and click a button and purchase it. So what I'm gonna put right here is called a beat bomb, and a lot of these things from Matsu, they come out of like me doing rhymey poems, and I'll be like, I'll say something like, out of the Atomicacon bomb, the great 7 Kapu yokai, they yodeled out a flight song that no one had ever heard before, and Kabuki, hearing the vibration, created what is now known as the beat bomb, right? And so it's, it's a metaphor off of beatbox, and the magic of how, the original beatboxers, with African Bambaataa brought out, that we're a creature, we're a human beatbox machine, right? And then I think about like even the Tomicon happened, when there was high-tech internet and stuff, and the yokai, that's where they most felt at home, right? Was with the high-tech, like all of us yokai, right? And so that's where kind of the beat bomb came from. And then one of the major characters in the story of Matsu is Bambaataa bird, and that's where I think it's just very enriching thing in your life. And I invite any of you artists who know me and have some skills in the creative area and want to develop them, to come along and start coming at me going, I'm ready to do some Matsu, and then just do a little cartoon or something, because basically what I've built with Matsu is a whole universe. So there's a lot of room for cartoons and shorts and memes and any new ideas across the web. Okay, so we pretty much got this. Probably taking way too long. How long have we been there? 25 minutes. Whoa, I always do this. Okay, so I'm going to splash the intuitive color. So all I do is, I'm going to use this, and I got my dagger. But I think I'm going to use this a lot more, because I want to show you intuitive color. So you see right there, I pretty much got a cool drawing. I'm already successful to me, you know, right? And I'm already successful. But this is where it gets fun, right? Because intuitive color to me is not like I gotta render his hat red and blue and all that. It's all just like, let's do some watercolor. So let's start with some turquoise, and then when you lay this in, and then you gotta follow all the, I gotta make it perfect within the lines. No, that's incredible, make it drip, make it bleed. His face, is it green? Is it blue? Maybe he's just lighted up by the whole Matsu universe, right? And then bring the yellows in. See, this is why the CMY palette is so fun to work with. Because look at it, you just know it's gonna blend, and it's gonna blend a glowing iridescent color. Because the method a lot of us have learned, right? Let's bring in some manganese. The lessons a lot of us have learned, and let's do would be a watercolor fundamental right there, right? Ooh, let's bring in that phthalo, right? Watercolor mental, moving around, and then boom, keep that highlight in the middle of the and then let's do a story stone. Right, still intuitive color. Let's bop over the magenta. We can get some purples in there, and so that's what's so amazing about using this palette is your magentas are so majestic, and your violets, and woo. And this gets into my roots, which is quote unquote street art, or what folk art, original 21st century folk art, just fun, And then of course, if you're new to watercolor, I could turn you on right now. Follow watercolor principles, which gets the effects. Like, see, I'm circling my highlight right there. But main thing, and then here you go, I'm doing my lift. Because, one thing people, I don't know, a lot of people talk about is when you're painting with watercolor like this, and, it's a lot of, to me, is just becoming a kid again. Ooh. So we got the magentas going on here, right? And let's do this edge, Whew. All right. So work with the opposites, right? But also know that you're gonna get these incredible greens, and these olive greens and these reds. Woo! I just have so much fun. Woo! And then do that phthalo. Make sure you get that in like tattoo art that's called a fade, right? Ink fade. And then, pay attention to your values, but why I call it intuitive, because a lot of things I do intuitive, because I feel after you get too much into the craft, because you're trying to go somewhere and you're not clear, like if you want to work for a company that needs you to be precise, and, is pay attention to the drawing while you're doing all this fun. Stop worrying about, am I doing it right or whatever, A lot of it is, confidence, and, those of you that want to make it like career oriented and take it that far, a lot of the fundamentals to me there are confidence, right? Like more than skill and everything, because at one point you have to really pour you into it, right? So let's go outside the palette a little bit and use some specialty colors. Ooh, look at that kind of indigo. Something happened there. But anyway, you know, and then more water the better too. Let's bring out a purple right there for the edge. Watch this. Woo! Look at that purple, baby. And then, you know, do this stuff, because this is what, you know, even if you watch a lot of people who do, you know, traditional landscapes and all that, that's what they're always, that right there, that magic, right? So let's try some heavy yellow there to even separate the, you know, him from the background, so we get that green kind of magic going on. So with this palette, if you notice, you know, you kind of are set free from a lot of the too much the muddy issue, right? And this is another trippy thing, because I might try some art adventures where I just do the painting and then I talk over it, because there's something that happens where, you know, this is coming out cool and everything, but there's just something that happens when you, let's do some little lifting to make sure we don't bury him in too much dark value. You know, there's just something that happens where you lose being too. I guess it's because it is kind of a personal journey at one level, yeah. So when you turn on the camera and you start talking, and you don't have a chance to look back, like I think a lot of them, I'm starting to do these, like, you know, 40-inch watercolors, and you know, I'm gonna, like, what I've been learning from oils is just, you know, spend like 3 months on one piece and just come back to it, so you can start to get this magic, what's happening right there. And that's why I like this paper too, or you know, at least use a paper that you can beat up a little. Because remember, part of the art adventure too, if you're an artist that, you know, headed toward making a living, or is there already, you know, a lot of this also is exploration in using these watercolors. So when you got to do a memorial piece for someone, or for a kid, or for some giving back of inspiration, you're just ready to hit it out of the Mofro Park, right? Okay, so, and then here's where, you know, it's intuitive, but also remember some of the principles, right? So I'm gonna, let's kind of, you know, sunrise, or, you know, sunburst this top area. So I'm being a little more conscious than being just slapping down color like I was earlier, right? So we'll bring our yellows in now, and because really, to me, when it comes down to especially all the incredible art tools available today, it comes down to at least me, you know, I'm an art junkie, I guess, or a hoarder, right? But I love it because each one is a different mode for me to deal with either frustration, or, you know, something I got going on in my life for that day. And inadvertently, it starts out as a kid, like running, like same way I found rock and roll, like, you know, finding a way to get out. But, you know, because, you know, if you really think about it, you know, you're doing it for yourself first. And, you know, I don't like to get too, you know, mushy about, like, oh, it's a healer or whatever. No, it's art, you know. Same with poetry, you know. It's not a spell or whatever. It's art, you know. Like, you can call it a spell, but then you're getting down to too much psychology and things, right? So let's do this cool little blend over here, and we're almost out of here. Let's do a cool little, let's go from this green, right? See, this is the CMYK. It's really easy to process, right? That yellow, and then I go, right, to the Marfellows. Woo! Look at that. Boom. And then, you know, part of the principles is watching the edges, right? So he's still him, not just a blob of blast of color, right? And then, no, let's just stick with these tools. But, you know, if I were in my sketchbook, I would finish them up with what I'm doing right now, right? And then I would bring out colored pencils or whatever's laying around right next to me and probably start. Oh, I was going to include one more tool that I usually use in this kind of little setup, which is I was going to include a gray cool marker and render in one more level before I started doing the intuitive color. But look at that, isn't that fun? That's fun, huh? So this yellow right here, let's do a blend. Let's continue this. Let's use some magenta. Another magenta. See, with the CMY palette too, you also can get closer back to that nature of what, at least I feel, you know, you're doing art to, is to bring back your kid, your original nature, right? Because I believe to first please yourself in doing an art piece, even in your sketchbook like this one, right? You got to go back to, you got to open yourself up, right? And I believe in the world right now, we shut down a lot, right? Because there's a lot of BS, right? Or there's a lot of, you know, things that you just rather not process, you know, and especially if you work a job or whatever and you have to go somewhere where, you know, you really would rather not be, you know. And so you learn to shut down. And I learned this from poetry readings, because at poetry readings I'm like, whoa, it's just, you know, that they always say, oh, you go first, man, you're in the cold water, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, whoa. And then I always kind of wonder what that was, and to me it's always, you know, it literally is a spell, not in the sense of like a witch's spell or whatever, but a, you know, a shift in perspective, consciousness, and that's why I believe you're doing art, and it's first for you to shift your consciousness, especially if you're a day job person and you know, you're doing like an art adventure right now to shift that consciousness back to being open again, you know, and when you open up, you know, if you're from the school I am, you want to include in your art the poetic nature of where you're at, you know, spiritually, your vibration in the world, you know, getting back to, you know, and then to me that brings your, you know, that's where you could get kind of mushy, you know, that brings it back to your ultimate purpose here, which to me gives you back your happiness, your health, and you know, makes each day, you know, there's still the ups and downs, but makes each day an art venture. But anyway, right on, 40 minutes, here we go. I think these things are just 40 minutes long. And if I do a little more complex of a medium, then it's going to go a little over 40 minutes. And I think that's a good time. You guys got to give me feedback. So thank you once again for coming along for an art venture. Let's add some drips. That's another, you know, maybe. And then you guys got a request, you know, like if I didn't do enough in this one to show you what's going on and inspire you, let me know. Go, you know, continue a little bit, man, with those that art venture intuitive color, you know, because I want to keep these, or just say, you know, oh, if it goes over, let it go over, because we enjoy your storytelling, or but I didn't do a lot of the drips, so, or other techniques that I start to do, you know, which are old school techniques from other disciplines. So to me, there's not only just mixed media, there's, you know, these days we live in such a wonderful time, there's different disciplines to throw in, you know, from Looney Tune cartooning to, you know, to Banksy, you know, or however you say his name, right? To, you know, to even, you know, motorcycle people art and, you know, creatures. But anyway, let's call this a shot, right? There you go. There's some intuitive color. Isn't that beautiful? See, that's some watercolor to me. You know? If you get caught up in too much other things, you don't do the watercolor. And of course, you know, added bonus if one's bopping around here somewhere. If it isn't, it isn't. Added bonus is to bring in some white gouache and sparkle a little bit. But otherwise, I think I didn't get to use my dagger, which that's another thing. So I can, you know, see, that's one of the things where I want you guys to help me is we can narrow it down to, you know, just do the dagger. Do that, you know, like you did in Intuitive Color. Now do a dagger painting because I love daggers. And that's this paintbrush, if you don't know. But anyway, thank you again, all you Patreons. Opening IPC University. Please tell your friends if you benefit from this, value this, and definitely come visit me in the I Paint Creatures stream. Another thing I would do is go back in either with an ink pen or my my homie Nero and to find some more form. But anyway, rock and roll. Appreciate every single one of you. Go out and get your symphony. And thank you very much for coming along for IPC University for Artventure tutorials and behind the curtain drawing, painting, poetry, imagination, and movie making. Let's do this, folks. See y'all later. Thanks for coming aboard the Creature Submarine.